All right, everybody. I have a special guest today, a beautiful soul, a wonderful, wonderful, inspiring person, Chrissy Boyce. Welcome to the show, Chrissy.
Oh, thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Chrissy, why don't you tell our audience about a little bit about who you are? What made Chrissy who she is?
Wow. I've been asked this question a couple times, and the truth is, I'm just now starting to figure out who Chrissy is. Other than being a mother of two adult children and a wife, um, I am a life coach, and I just love helping people to get in touch with their authentic selves again.
Hmm. Chrissy, you use this term authentic self. How did you find your authentic self and what is it to be authentic?
Hmm. Well, I'm learning who my authentic self is right now, but how it started was I came to an end and a realization of who I'm not and who I was sick of being and who I was sick of feeling like. I was just, I was sad and I didn't feel good ever. And, you know, what was the other question?
How
Sorry.
did you what is authentic self and how do you find it?
Okay, how do I find it? Yeah, so my authentic self and what I'm striving for is just to be comfortable in my own skin, to just love who I am, exactly how I am, exactly where I'm at, to shed the shame that I have placed on myself and I feel others have placed on me, and to just be at one with life. That's who my authentic self is, to live a purpose. And I believe how I started to look for my authentic self was learning how to ask better questions in my mind. It was learning how to change my mindset. It was
Mm,
learning about how the brain works and how I stored all of those limiting beliefs that were causing me to feel shame. And once I learned about all that stuff, I was able to apply tools to release a lot of it and get to know me.
you said something really important there. It really is a journey, right? Once we get started, it doesn't stop. We just keep trying to get better and better and better and better and better at it. But you also said another really important thing, and that is teachers are also students.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
At least that's what I heard you saying. You are uncovering your authentic self while you are also teaching others how they can uncover their authentic self.
Yes. And I feel like a lot of us may feel that we have to know everything and know
Mhm.
exactly who we are before we can start to teach others. But then we're never going to start teaching others because it's I think we learn for our entire life. It never stops. So I just want to teach the people the things that I've been healed from. And then the more I get healed from, the more I can add to my teachings.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's so beautiful. So, would you like to share, if you feel comfortable, share a story of something that you've healed, that you released?
Yeah. Well, let's see here.
I know you must have so many stories.
I do have a lot of stories. The struggles with the stories is I'm learning how to tell them while still keeping all of the people involved in integrity, in
Mm-hmm.
intact.
Yeah.
Um, and because I believe that even though I may have been hurt in situations, though because I allowed those situations to make me stronger, I learned very big lessons. And so I
Mm-hmm.
believe those people were in my life for a very specific reason. I was asking to learn something and
Right.
they gave it to me.
Right. Right.
I think one of the biggest things, and this is not something I have started to share with people yet, but I'm going to share it with you because I think it's something that a lot of women could be going through. Something that I have healed from is infidelity in my marriage.
Mm. Oh, I'm right there with you, baby.
Yeah. And the one thing that I learned through the whole process was that my husband was suffering. He was suffering. He wasn't, there's a difference between somebody who's just doing it and they don't
Right.
want to change, and somebody who's doing it and they don't know why they're doing it and they just don't know what to do, but they don't want to do it. They want change. And he was definitely one that was, he didn't know. He didn't know why he was doing it. He was searching for connection, and he didn't know. And it was all based off of his story and how, his life and how he chose to deal with his emotions, or should I say his lack of emotions. I mean, he had
Mm.
emotions. He didn't know anything about what those were. So, we did a lot of therapy through this, but I did know at the time I found out that I was dealing with someone who was hurting. I wasn't dealing
Mm.
with that person. The struggle I had through that was the shame I felt was placed on me by other people. Like, oh, you must have a low self esteem if you stayed with somebody who did all of that to you.
Mm.
But see, I don't believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's that's truly a struggle. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, I can see that. So what thoughts did you have? How did you deal with this?
Well, I think the biggest thing was that he took 1,000,000% responsibility for his own healing. And when I found out about it, that was I had my breakdown, but it wasn't because of that. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was, my whole lifetime of an abusive childhood, you know, I was very emotionally unintelligent. I never learned about emotions. I didn't learn how to react in appropriate ways. I was very immature in my life. And that moment just was the straw that broke the camel's back.
How
So
long had you been married when
we
this
had been
happened?
married about 14 years. Yeah, it was going
Okay.
on 14 years. And he was very suppressed growing up. And that was, and not in a bad way. I'm not saying his family was bad in any way. It's just he just didn't have a grasp and understanding of anything he was feeling, emotions or anything like that. And I met him later in life. So I was married in my 30s, and I was the only woman he had been with. And we were in a very strict religion. And here I thought I was doing everything the right way, and he's doing everything that he thinks he's supposed to be doing. I mean, I don't doubt that he absolutely loved me. He just didn't. I mean, and he's also coming into a marriage with an older woman. I'm 8 years older than him, with 2 children.
Mm.
So there was a lot
Mm-hmm.
of pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not making excuses for him. This is just the reality of
For
how.
sure. And so many people, it is the reality for so many other people
Yeah.
as well. So thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing with us. Tell us a little bit about how you met and how that part of the story where everything was beautiful. How did that happen?
Well, we met skydiving. We
Ah.
both have very adventurous sides, and I was working as a dental assistant at a dental office, and on my weekends I worked at a drop zone where I put people on airplanes to jump out of them. And in that process, I got licensed and was skydiving. And he had come in, and we became very good friends. And yeah, it just grew from there. We dated about a year, then we got married, and we had a lot of adventure in our marriage. I moved away from the job I had been at for a really long time, put him through college, and then we joined the military. He joined the military. So, here I am supporting a military member while moving teenagers around the United States. That was very difficult. I went into the relationship and I told him this before we ever got married, but I was like, my kids will always come first, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I set that standard kind of in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't take it the way I was wanting him to take it. What I wanted him to hear was, I love you and I want this to be a big family, but I need you to understand that because I was abandoned as a child. I need my children to not feel abandoned as a child. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I was wanting him
Mm-hmm.
to hear. And of course, I
Right.
didn't say that. um, and then what he heard was, you will never come,
Mm.
you'll never come close to the love I have for my
Oh
children.
my goodness. Yes. Oh, and that's not at all what you wanted.
No,
No.
but that's, part of how we filter things. But
Yes,
that's
that's right.
according to what we've lived in our lifetime, is how we hear people.
I can think of so many women, including myself, who have said that either out aloud or at least acknowledged it to themselves going into, a second marriage with children, saying, my children come first.
Yeah.
I am committed to their well-being, and if I have to make a choice, I'm going to choose my children. I remember doing that as well in my marriage. Um, so I think so many people in our audience can relate to having that feeling. And I think my cat also agrees.
I heard her. That's so cute. Well, and we just didn't have any skills. We were attracted to each other because we had the same energy. I'm all about energy. I believe
Yeah,
him and I have the same type of energy,
right.
just had different problems, and we were dealing with them differently. And
Yes,
we didn't have skills. We didn't have the communication skills. So, we heard what we heard, and then we did what we did with what
yes,
we
that's right.
heard. So,
And you know what? School doesn't teach us any of this emotional awareness and the ability to handle things that happen. We don't get taught at home or at school because, there are things that, at least the way I was brought up, okay, you don't talk about that.
right.
Figure
Yes.
it out. You don't talk about it,
It's exactly how I was. Yes, absolutely.
right?
And
Yeah,
that's how he was raised. Like, you just don't talk about,
you
especially
just
things,
don't talk about it.
you just don't talk about things like that.
But then that suppresses your emotions and you don't work through them. You
Yep.
just
And
put a lid on top of them, and then it all festers underneath, doesn't it? Yes. So then what did an incident happen? How did you find out?
well, throughout the marriage, I had always felt disconnected. But to be fair, I didn't feel connected to anyone because I was disconnected from myself. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know all this during that. I
Mm-hmm.
was I was surviving life. I
Mm-hmm.
was raising kids. I was moving around the country.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of just thought, I'd never been married. I'd never seen an example of a healthy marriage. And whenever I would talk to him
Oh,
about it,
that's so important. You just said
yeah,
something so important. Most families are dysfunctional.
yes, yes,
So
absolutely.
if you've never seen a healthy relationship,
Then
you
you don't,
have no benchmark. You don't know what that looks like.
right?
Keep going, Chrissy.
No,
Sorry
it was
to
great.
interrupt.
No, it's and so I just kind of chalked it up to, oh well, I'm the first person he's really been with, and he's, just doesn't know how to be in a relationship. And here I was at that time thinking I knew how to be in a relationship, but I didn't. I didn't know anything. But I have always in my life, because I had the childhood I had, I'm very sensitive to the feelings and emotions and energies of other people.
Mm,
Learned to be on high alert for those so I could avoid situations that were hurtful for me. And
right,
so what I was sensing in the marriage was that something was off. I didn't know what it was. I didn't have anyone to talk to find out about it because we weren't supposed to talk about that stuff. And
right.
I was putting pretty much all my energy into these teenagers I was trying to deal with on my own, because in the military, he was gone all the time,
Right.
so and so him and I just, I mean, we knew we loved each other, but something was off. And
Mm,
after my kids grew and left, and as I started learning about personal development, I first learned with the movie The Secret, and all about the law of attraction. So I started
yes.
to try and, change my mindset and things like that. But as I started learning more about personal development, I started feeling more emotional and more like uncontrollable emotional.
Mm,
And I started to feel too sensitive to outside relationships. And being in the military makes it real easy to, isolate yourself in the house because
right,
you move around so much. You don't make friends. When you do make friends, you leave
right.
it's very difficult. So I isolated myself. And then when my kids grew and left, I found myself alone in my house a lot. So there was one time when I was dropping him off for a deployment, and when I dropped him off and he said goodbye to me, I sensed an energy. He looked at me like he was never going to see me again. I get choked up when I think about it.
Mm, right.
I did. I had that impression. I remember driving away and feeling like, what was that about? And so I was never the wife to search or get into someone's personal or private space, but I did then. I started searching and I started finding all the evidence that showed what was happening in my marriage. And because he was deployed and I had no friends, I had no one.
Yes.
I
Yes.
sat in a house. I remember sitting in my chair for 30 days straight. I lost 30 pounds. The only time I could get up and force myself to get out of this chair was to go to bed or was to feed my dogs or force myself to eat something. It was horrible. I just,
What were the thoughts you were thinking at that time?
oh, well, it was so unknown. And when I talked to him about it, he knew I found out and he was devastated. But there just wasn't enough time over a phone call on a deployment to
Right.
discuss things.
Yeah.
The thoughts that were going through my mind were the visions of him with other people and just all of the other times in my life that I felt betrayed. It was just all coming back. And what's funny is I choke up about it now, but at that time, I couldn't cry. I was
Mm,
in total shock. So what I did was being in the military, we had great access to healthcare. And I went to a therapist and talked with him about it. And he told me how to handle it when he got home. Because I knew this wasn't, from what I found, this isn't a guy who's just being a jerk and doesn't want to be
right.
married. This is someone who's struggling with something. And so when my husband came home and I picked him up from his deployment, and I had to cut off contact with him too, by the way, like, because talking with him, they call it the death from a thousand cuts, you
Mm.
know, just little bits of information
Yeah.
here and there, so
Yeah.
so when he got home, I handed him the therapist card and just said, if you want, this is your, first of all, I said, this is your last chance. It's either come clean now or it's over. And we sat for 4 hours as he confessed to me. Now it's not 4 hours of constant talking. There was a lot of breaks in between. Like it
Mm.
was hard for him to talk about these things because he
Yes,
was
that's
so
right. Yeah.
ashamed of himself.
Yeah.
And what I kept hearing is this voice in my head: don't say a thing, don't make
Mm.
a face,
Mm.
don't say
Mm-hmm.
it. Because I always had to fill space. I always had
Yeah.
to talk and fill space.
Yeah.
I didn't say a word. And he just he opened up. First time, which was, it was a weird feeling. I was appreciative and at the same time saddened. So he did his own therapy separately and I did my own, and then we did marriage counseling together. And we went through very, 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 like, it was like 3 days every week for 2 years straight. And he was very committed to his part. With me, however, when I went into the office to be, what do they call it when they give you it's not an exam, it's a or they're trying to figure out where I'm at, right? The
Mm.
therapist
Assessment. Yeah.
assessment. Thank you. I was diagnosed with PTSD,
Oh.
and it wasn't. It was from my childhood.
Mm.
So I had walked through life with PTSD, and I did not know it, and
Mm.
that explained all the feelings, the
Emotional.
emotions
Yes.
I was having, and
And
the
you
rapid,
triggers. Yeah.
those were the worst because I literally turned into a different person, you know.
Right.
So I
And
did
then
a
he wouldn't know how to handle you. Yeah.
lot. He learned, we learned
Yeah.
together. But I have to tell you something that happened right before, because this is the huge part of this story.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I saw the movie The Secret,
Yes.
I made a vision board. I have my vision
Yeah.
board right here, by the way.
Right.
And I made a vision book because with being in the military, we move around a lot and I didn't want to
Right.
carry the board around. So I made a book. And in that book, I put my husband's picture and I put like the silhouette of two people growing old together, kind of growing up and then growing old. And there was a military one right in the middle. And for some reason, I heard that I needed to ask for what I wanted in my marriage. Because remember, I was feeling something's off.
Right.
So I was like, okay, so every night I would go to bed and I would pray and I'd say, God, please give me a loving, kind, faithful husband that cherishes and honors me. 5 things. I said that every single night. And within a month, I found out about my husband. Now,
Mm.
that's important to know because I was asking for those things.
Mm. Oh,
And
I
so,
see what you're saying.
right. And so
It
when
was
that,
your asking,
yeah.
yes, that revealed it.
Mhm.
Because without that revelation, you wouldn't have got what you wanted.
Exactly. And I thought when I found out, I thought, oh, so this is God and the universe giving me what I asked for. So, okay, I
Yes.
guess it's not with this husband, it must be with another husband. Because I was planning on staying with him until he felt good and better. And then I was out. Like I just kind of
Okay.
was like, I'm
Yeah.
done. I loved him very much, but I didn't know how I couldn't see how we could make that work. Um, but I'll tell you what, right now, I
Yeah.
have a loving, kind, faithful husband who cherishes and honors me. More than anything, he is my best friend. He is everything I could have ever dreamed of. And yeah, I don't like the way that I learned this and how we became close, but the lesson that I learned, which is imperative for me being a life coach, is unconditional love,
Yes.
compassion, and
Always
forgiveness.
wins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so that actually started the journey of finding me was, hitting my rock bottom.
And
And
that's,
yeah,
yeah, your authentic self. It comes back around to being your authentic self, which is unconditional love and
yes.
forgiveness and creating space for other people to be who they are. Wow,
Yeah.
what a journey.
It was a journey. And there's one more really important thing I feel I should share is a lot of women who might be going through this or men who might be going through this, they might be unable to trust again. That's a really hard thing is to gain that trust back. And they have to earn it. Like they have to do the things to earn it.
Yes,
It's been
yes.
it's been like 4 years, 5 years almost since it happened for me. And I know I'm in this marriage knowing that it's possible it could happen again. I know this. It's possible anybody can do anything.
Mm-hmm,
To just assume that someone makes a commitment and they're just always going to be, you know,
mm-hmm,
perfect and never make mistakes, that's where I was naive. I know
mm.
it could happen again. But because I've worked on myself and my mindset and I have tools now, I know that if it happens again, I know I'm not going to be destroyed the way I was
Yeah.
before. And I know that I'll be able to move through it. I'll be able to leave and be okay with myself. I have it inside of me. I'm not relying on happiness from an outside source. He's not making me happy. I'm happy and I'm excited I get to share my happiness with his happiness.
Ooh, that is what a gem. Yes, that shift, because most of the time we say, oh, I need that relationship. I need this. I need someone else to show me that I'm a lovable person. But to come to that place where you can be whole all on your own, that's amazing. So how did you talk to yourself to be able to get to that place?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the things I'm learning in the courses I'm taking, and you're in one of those courses that I'm taking. So we're learning a lot about neurotransformational coaching and how our brain works and how we retain information. The way that I talk to myself is now that I know that I'm the only one responsible for my
Mhm,
happiness,
mhm,
I when something happens in the outside world that's outside of me, outside of my control, because I only have control of myself. When something happens that triggers an emotion, that tells me that there's something inside that this is triggering. Okay, there's something related to whatever this thing is. And that's something that a lot of us don't like to do because it's like looking in a
mm.
mirror, right? Because we do. It's like
Yeah,
looking in a mirror.
yeah.
So the questions I ask myself is, do I want to take this thing that's happening And do I want to store it in my mind so that it can affect me negatively later on? And when I ask myself that question, my answer is always no.
Of
And it's
course not.
easier,
Yeah.
yeah, it's easier to let it go. Now,
Yes.
now there are some things that are not so easy to let go. So what I do in those cases is I express that emotion that's wanting to come up and out. And I do that by trash journaling. That's where I just sit down and I'll open up a Word document and I'll just type anything that comes out of my mouth. I'm just like, ugh, cussing and all, I'm not
Right.
going to read it again. It's not going to go back in. I'm getting it
Right.
out and then I delete it. Or if it's on a piece of paper, I take it, rip it up, shred it, burn it. That's why,
Yeah.
I express it. And
Gets it
so,
out of your system.
right, right. And, and another thing that was very difficult for me is there was a point because he was doing a lot, he was very committed to his healing and his journey. I was not so much committed to healing with him. I was afraid to heal myself because I thought if I heal, I am not going to want to be with this man.
Oh,
Because
I
if
see.
I'm a healed person, it's like the shame that I got from other people.
Right.
If I'm healed, why would I want to be with someone who's done this?
Hmm.
Hey, that's a really like that's so important to
That's,
recognize
oh, yes.
because if that's the case, that is 100% okay. But it wasn't the case for me, and I'm very grateful for it. And he would always tell me, he's like, I know there's a chance that you might leave me if you heal. I said, but I need you to heal. He
Hmm.
goes, I need you to be here because you want to be here. I want you to
Oh,
feel
that's
good.
beautiful.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I do. And I still go through the moments where it's like, oh, what's happening? Is he talking to someone? Or when you're in a triggered moment, you think everybody's an enemy. Everyone
Yes.
that walks by,
Yes.
you're like,
Yes.
it's
It,
hard. But
it's hard.
in those moments, I
Yes.
just help remember who I am because
Mm.
that's all I can do. And I
Who
have
are
to
you?
support.
Who
Who
are
am I?
you?
Who am
Yeah.
I?
What do you tell yourself? Who are you?
I tell myself that I tell myself that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be in life. And I put trust in the universe and God that I am where I'm supposed to be. And that everything that happens, good or bad, whatever we label it as, is meant for something I'm asking for.
Mm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And I'm a loving, kind, and forgiving person because I want people to love, be kind, and forgive me.
Amazing. That's beautiful. And I think that all of us want that. At the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to love and we want to be loved,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 So, how have you changed, Chrissy, and how has your relationship changed with your husband?
Oh my gosh, he's my best friend. I can't imagine a world or a universe without him.
Oh,
You know,
that's so lovely.
the way it's changed is I no longer focus on the things I don't like. I focus on what I do like.
Mm-hmm.
We built skills in communication. We talk to each other. We're constantly talking. He senses my energy now. He never used to know about energy. Now he's like, I sense that your energy has shifted. It's so funny to hear out of his voice because he just was so not on that level.
Oh my goodness. How wonderful.
Yeah.
I think every person listening, man or woman, that's what we all want from our partners, isn't it? Yes, that connection, that's so special.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, and one more thing is forgiveness is not about letting someone off the hook. It doesn't make what they did, it doesn't give them an excuse. It doesn't make it any better. Forgiveness is about freeing ourselves from the prison we put ourselves in.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So,
Beautifully said. Yes, yes. I think that forgiveness is more for ourselves than it is for the other person. You're freeing yourself, not letting them off the hook. You're freeing yourself from all those negative emotions that create a burden that we carry around, and then you just can't be happy.
yeah, yeah.
Wow,
I'm
so
so
much has changed for you.
It has. And I feel so blessed. Yeah, it's great.
And so what are some of the tips and tricks or things that you would like to share with people who are in a similar situation or any kind of situation where they have to deal with something in order to improve their lives and move forward? What are a couple of things that you might be able to share with them?
The biggest thing I think would, and this is, I learned this from Law of Attraction, but I created my own little, in my coaching, I call let's tear it up, right? We have a thought, right? We have a thought in our head
Hmm.
that's creating an emotion. And
Right.
this emotion is causing us to do an action, and that action is creating that result. So TEAR. So if you
Mm.
come to a point in your life where you are looking at a result and you're not happy with this result, right? Tear it up. Go back to the thought, the T.
Mm.
And you can reverse engineer it too. If you
So
have
T is for the thought.
the T is for the thought, and
Okay.
the E is for the emotion,
Okay.
the A is
A,
for the action,
action, and
and the
R
R
is
is
the
the result.
result.
Yeah. So if you want to take a result you're not happy with and tear it up, TEAR, what you need to do is reverse engineer. If you have this result, what action are you taking that's causing this result? Right? Okay. So you get the action. So what emotion must you be feeling to take this action? Right?
Right.
So what thought are you having now to have this emotion, to create this emotion? So now you've got this blueprint of why
Yes.
you're getting
Yes.
the result you're getting. So
Yes.
then what I do, very simple, is I take that blueprint and I start with the thought. And I simply reverse the thought. That's all I do.
Ah,
So if I'm thinking I'm not worthy, then I reverse it to I'm worthy. And then
ah,
I go forward. So if I'm feeling worthy, what
yes.
emotion would that create? And so I write the emotion. So if I'm feeling this emotion of, okay, so I'm worthy, this makes me feel hopeful. And if I'm feeling hopeful, I might take a chance here. And if I'm taking a chance here, this means I might get out of bed this morning and take a shower and do something,
Oh,
right?
that's beautiful, Chrissy. I love it. Tear it up.
Tear it
And
up.
that's so simple to remember.
Yes. Tear it up.
I
You
love it.
tear that old thought up and you create a new one.
Oh, I love it. That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with all of us. And I call myself a law of attraction junkie. So I totally get the space from which all of this is coming. But tell us your perspective of law of attraction.
Hmm.
How
Okay.
has it played out in your life?
Okay. Well, I've definitely seen that everything, because I feel like I'm a lightning fast manifester, meaning
Mm,
whatever I'm thinking about, it happens pretty quickly.
okay.
So I can look back over my life and I can see why my life was in such a downward spiral because I remember what my energy was. I remember what I was focusing on. I was focusing on all the things I didn't want. It was where my focus was going. When I learned how to shift that focus and to change those questions, the limiting, make you know, the disempowering language in my head more empowering, then I was able to shift my focus and ask better questions. So I was focusing on what I wanted instead of focusing on what I was unhappy with. Once I started focusing on what I wanted, the world started shifting for me.
Mm,
It did. Opportunities started coming. And when I stopped trying to control it, because in the beginning when you're learning about it, I kind of think we all might try to control it, like, oh, I want to win the lottery, so I'm just going to concentrate on winning the lottery. I'm going to focus
yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
right? I
Yep.
stopped doing that. I started focusing on the end result. The end result is I want to feel at one with life and I want to feel inner peace. I don't care what else is happening. That's what I want. That's my ultimate goal. And that's what I focus on. And everything that comes into my life, good or bad, because remember, bad is just as important
Yes.
as the good. Whatever comes into my life now, I know is a result and is getting me closer to that ultimate, desire to feel at one with life and feel inner peace.
Beautiful. So tell us a story of an interesting manifestation that
Ooh,
happened in your life.
I have a great one. Okay,
All
so
right.
I have a little French bulldog. His name is Taco, and he's
Okay.
amazing. And I manifested him, and I can't wait to tell you how. All right. So when we were in North Carolina, and we had a boxer. We got a boxer right after we got married. His name was Zeus. He was just the best dog. And remember, in my marriage, I was very lonely. And so this dog was protective of me. He loved me unconditionally. He was with me all the time. I mean, I was so attached to this dog. And right after everything happened with my husband and I, he passed away. And that was devastating for me. And I was like, I never want another dog ever again. And we had another golden retriever. We still have him, but a couple of years after he passed away, I remember being at a job and seeing one of the coworkers bring in their little French bulldog. And I told my husband, I'm like, they look like a little mini boxer. It just looks like a little mini Zeus. How cute is that? And I was like, I think I might be okay to have a dog now. And he's like, really? Because my husband's a big dog. I mean, he'll have a million dogs if I let him. So I start researching, both him and we start researching these little French bulldogs. And we found a French bulldog that looks exactly like Zeus, same color, everything. And so
Wow.
we're like, okay, we'll name him MZ for mini Zeus. And so we're like, okay, we studied the temperament, because we're good dog owners. We want to make sure that we're going to be able to take care of
Yeah.
them. So we started calling around to see how much they cost, and they were $6,000. We couldn't believe it because COVID brought the
Yeah.
price up. Lady Gaga, apparently she had Frenchies that were stolen, and so that became a trend. That
Oh,
Frenchies. So we were like, okay, well, I guess we're not getting a dog right now, and that's okay. We put it out in the universe when we were really concentrating on it. And then when it didn't have, when we were like, we're not paying $6,000 for a dog, we were like, okay, that's fine. We just let it go. So I'm sitting at work one day and I look out the window, and this was up in a mountain town, Crested Butte, Colorado, very dog friendly. I look out the window and I see this little French bulldog tied up to the bike stand out there because the owner had went in next door to the coffee shop. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. And I worked with my husband at that time. So I yell back at my husband. I'm like, there's a MZ outside. And we both go out loving all over this dog. And he's loving both of us. And the owner comes out and she's like, oh, it looks like he found some friends. And I told her the story, showed her pictures of Zeus, and I was so excited. I'm like, but yeah, we're not paying $6,000. And she looks at me and she goes, well, I hope this doesn't sound bad, but do you want him? And I looked at her and I'm like, yeah, I thought she was joking. Apparently, her husband got him for her as a gift when he was a puppy, and he was too aggressive and wouldn't let her husband get near her.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so we took the evening to think about it. And of course, we knew we wanted him. And my husband is a very wonderful dog trainer, and we're just good. We're good with dogs. And so we got this baby boy, this $6,000 dog that already had all his shots, was neutered, everything. We got this dog for free, and he has been the best addition to our family.
Oh my
He is
goodness.
he's amazing.
What a beautiful story. And how old was he when you got him?
He was he was just about to be 2 years old, and he's
Oh
three
my
now. So
goodness.
yeah, he's our little baby.
What a beautiful story. It just literally fell in your lap.
Literally. I have tons of manifesting stories. I have tons of them, but that was my favorite one.
Oh, that's such a beautiful story. I love it. So manifesting is easy. You said you are the queen of manifesting. So,
Lightning. But
lightning.
that's also a double-edged sword, because if I'm not in a good space, I'm manifesting not so good things
Very quickly as well.
very quickly. Yeah.
Hmm. So what is something that you would advise people to do if they want to become more like you and just it comes out of their mouths and there it is?
I would recommend really getting clear on what it is you want. Making sure
Mm.
it's not what you think you want or what other people might want for you. Get clear on what you want, you know, and then do a vision board. Put what you want on a vision board. Look at it every day. Imagine it as if you already have it. And just take that time right before you go to bed every night, 3 minutes. That's all you need. Just look at it. Imagine if you already have it. And then just be patient and let it go and trust that God and the universe, whatever it is that is your higher power
Yeah.
is bringing it to you.
You said something interesting there. You said, imagine that you already have it. And I think that this is where sometimes it goes wrong for people, because if you keep asking for it and feel bad that you don't have it,
Mm,
that's the opposite of
right,
what you really want to create.
right.
So it kind of, in my opinion, it pulls your vibration in two different directions. I want it, but I don't have it.
Yeah,
But what you're saying is, instead of doing it that way, just have fun knowing that you have it.
yeah. Go into an imaginary space. Give yourself, 10 minutes every night to just play pretend, to be alone where you're not going to be distracted and go into your mind and just see what it would feel like if you had it. And then really be conscious about not being upset that you don't have it, and certainly don't concentrate that you don't have it. Just let yourself be free and think about what it would be like, what it would feel like, what it would smell like, what it would, what would it sound like if I had this, and just let yourself feel it. And then when it's over, like let that be, imagine yourself just putting it out in the universe and just being like, okay, I'm going to wait patiently.
Mm. And then while you're waiting patiently, do you keep thinking about it? How do you, like, what do you do?
So I've noticed in my manifesting, if I keep thinking about it, it doesn't come. But like in
Mm.
the case with Taco, my little French bulldog, we let it go. Like we really wanted it. We concentrated on it. We put it out there. This is what we want. But when we realized it's $6,000, we let it go and we didn't think anything about it. We weren't sad that we couldn't have another dog. We weren't, we didn't choose to be sad about it. We just
And
let it
that's
go.
important. I
Yeah,
think you
just
just said something really important, because it's that sadness that is the opposite energy that then blocks it and that keeps it from happening.
yes. And I think another thing that goes along with that is trust.
Mhm.
Trusting that if you're asking for something, okay, so like with my husband, I'm asking for a faithful husband. I think I
Mhm.
already have it, but I'm asking for a husband who loves and cherishes and honors me, something that I feel, right? I got it. So it's not the way I wanted it, but I got it.
But you
So if
got it.
you're asking for something, and
You had to work for it.
yeah, like just be trusting that maybe if you're asking for a really good friend, and then all of
Yes.
a sudden all these other friends that you currently have, they start being mean to you, or you start seeing things and they start leaving your life. Instead of being sad about it and being like, why are people unchoosing me, having trust that, okay, so these people must need to be exited at this point in time to make room for this really great thing that I
Ah.
have for.
And isn't that what we always say, is that you've got to let it go and make room for the new. Get
Yeah.
rid of the old so that you can make room for the new, right?
Okay.
What a,
So
yeah,
so that reminds me of, do you remember the look on my husband's face that I was never going to see him again? He
yeah,
was never going to see me.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
truly believe that I never saw that man again,
Ah,
because the man who came home knowing what he was coming home to and ready and committed was a
was it doing different?
completely different person.
Oh,
And I had to learn to live with a stranger for a really long time.
ooh, you give me goosebumps.
So there's a lot to it.
Wow. And you had the, I want to say, this inner kind of strength that helped you to get through that period of time. What what was the thought that helped you get through that period of time?
Hmm. Well, I remember right before I found out I had quit a job I was making some good money at. And I remember that job, not understanding why it didn't work out, because I was so good at it. Like, why didn't it work out? I don't understand. I know that if I had that job, I would have just left him before he came home from his deployment.
Mm,
So I knew that there was something bigger than me that was in play. I can't explain what it is. I do feel I'm pretty intuitive. I feel very empathetic. I feel other people's, I'm empathic. I feel other
Right.
people's energies. Um, the thing that kept me going was the love I had for him.
Mm.
The thoughts that I had in my head were, I, I think it was the thing that made me drop everything from outside of me and made me turn inward to focus on healing me. So I actually needed it in my life. If I wanted to be a life coach, like I was telling the universe I wanted to be, I needed to stop depending on outside sources to, I needed to stop trying to manipulate the outside of me to make the inside of me feel good. Does that make sense?
I let me tell you what I got out of this. So what I got out of it was that you wanted something, but the only way you could have got that thing was if you learned to deal with the obstacles you had internally that were stopping you from getting it. So the universe brought you a situation and said, "Here you go, sweetheart. If
Yes,
you want that, then you need to learn how to deal with this, and then you can have that."
absolutely. That is exactly what it was.
So that's why they say be careful what you ask for.
Exactly.
Because you're asking for it, but are you willing to do what it's going to take?
Yeah,
And when I say willing to do what it's going to take, doesn't necessarily imply physical action. It's sometimes the action that we need to do is just think. And I often say to people, when you're thinking is a verb. It's,
yeah,
it's a doing word. You're doing something when you're thinking.
yes,
So thinking in itself is action.
yes.
Amazing. So, looking back on the last couple of years of your life and looking forward to what's coming for you, what's in store for you, what are you most excited about?
Mm. Well, wow, I have so many things I'm excited about. There's so many great things that are happening. This season in my life has so much growth, and I've put myself into the community that you're in, with Lisa Nichols and Sean Smith, and I've just, I'm excited about the intentional relationships. All of the relationships I had before, I was attracting, you know, pretty negative, narcissistic type relationships. And now, knowing what I know, all of the people coming into my life right now, they're solid. And I'm really excited to build more bonds and to get out in the world because I isolated myself for so long. I stayed inside because I was too scared of the outside. I'm excited to get out there and to do things and to touch people's lives and
Mm.
to help people understand that I know how it feels to hit that rock bottom.
Oh, yes, yes,
I know. And you've got it. Everyone has it in them to get out. We just, we need support. We need
yes.
belief, and I'm excited to receive and give that.
Amazing. So, what are the types of people that you want to work with? Whose life do you want to change?
I want to change people who are learning later in life emotional intelligence.
Mm.
People who have struggled and they don't want to be a victim anymore. They know they had a rough upbringing and but they're so sick and tired of the way that their life is right now and they just don't know what to do to change it. They've tried everything. They're willing to do whatever it takes.
Mm.
Those are the people I'm looking for because those are the people who want true change in their life.
Mm.
And those are the people who will hear the things that
They're
create.
ready.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're ready. And I'm ready to teach. I'm ready to help.
Amazing. So, how do they find you when they listen to this podcast and watch you and they resonate with you and they want to connect with you? How do they find you?
Well, they can find me on my website, mindclaritycoaching.com. And I've also just recently created my own podcast. And that will be up here in the next 3 weeks. That will be up and uploaded. And that's the Mind Clarity Coaching Podcast. And I'm creating an Instagram. See, I'm at the very beginning of my journey of helping others. So, because I feel like I finally healed enough to be able to help someone
Mhm.
else something.
For sure.
Then I will also have I have my Mind Clarity Coaching YouTube channel, which is still brand new, and I will be developing videos. So yeah, all within the next year, you can reach me on Mind Clarity Coaching. Just make sure to
Amazing.
add the coaching at the end.
Thank you so much, Chrissy, for sharing your valuable insights, especially tear it up. I love that. That is so easy to remember. I remember it already. That
Awesome.
is fantastic. And thank you for sharing your journey. I know that that journey is not easy to share because there are so many emotions involved with it. Like you said, trust is such an essential part of that. And what you talked about with respect to forgiveness and unconditional love, I think those are the things that we are, all humans, that if we can learn those things, then it sets us free and it really becomes pivotal in our lives. So thank you for sharing your heart. Appreciate you. And I'm looking forward. You said you're at the beginning of your journey. I'm looking forward to seeing this journey unfold in most wonderful ways. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.